Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Capital and Kayfabe. I'm your co-host JP Echampaz for the Two-Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me is the author, the journalist, the political pundit, the former campaign manager, Mr. Jack Hunter. Jack, how you doing today, sir?
It's great to be with you. Looking forward to our conversation today.
Interesting kind of developments just as far as the Epstein Files are concerned. I thought it was pretty interesting. It was kind of pushing away. And now the files are back. The victims were meeting with politicians. They're doing interviews. What is the latest? What is going on here with this stuff?
Well, you had the event on Capitol Hill. Republican Congressman Thomas Massie, Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna are sort of leading the charge to release the Epstein Files. And about a month ago, they said on September 3rd, which will be beyond when this airs, they would be having victims of Jeffrey Epstein speak out for the first time. And that's what we saw. A couple things struck me about it. More than one, certainly 4, 5, 6. There were 10 women, I think, altogether. Said I was first brought to Jeffrey Epstein when I was 14. That was a recurring thing. All indicated that just Ghislaine Maxwell was intimately involved and is guilty as hell. What I didn't like about it, and I don't even know that the women are necessarily not telling the truth about this aspect of it. There was one victim who emphasized heavily that Jeffrey Epstein valued his relationship with Donald Trump. Now, I have no doubt that that was true. This was a name-dropping guy, hung around with, but the period we're talking about, Bill Clinton was president, and Donald Trump was like the dude from the 80s who was a real estate mogul in New York. So you would brag about that, but they would emphasize that. I worry that for partisans, it undermines what happened to these women at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell. It comes across more like, oh, well, Trump's president now. The Democrats' entire religion is absolutely hating this guy no matter what. Let's not talk about 14-year-olds being abused by Jeffrey Epstein. Let's make it about Trump. That's what I think maybe it came across to some people, and I don't like that. I think the woman that did that, however she feels about Trump, I assume she doesn't like him, might have undermined it a little bit with that. And I say that as somebody who 1,000% wants the Epstein Files released, 1,000% supports Massie and Ro Khanna, and I don't care who's on there. Justice needs to be done. But that was sort of some of my takes on it. I thought it was a successful event. I mean, something that horrible is weird to say that about, but if these women wanted to speak, they did, and I'm glad they did.
Pretty much the consensus was from them that Trump was never involved, had nothing to do with him. Obviously,
Right.
they're kind of clearing him. Then the attorney who was, I guess, representing some of the victims, he said had nothing to do with it. And since 2009, Trump was a part of, I guess, some back room, and I guess we're not really supposed to know this, but a part of some investigation. He's been helping, basically catch Epstein and get Epstein in trouble with the law since 2009. So interesting little wrinkle there. So that can't make a lot of people happy.
Correct. And if Trump wasn't involved, and I hope he wasn't, I would like to move on and see who was involved.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be about Trump, is my point. Whether you're a partisan that hates Trump or you're a MAGA person, absolutely loves him. This is a wealthy, powerful man who abused young girls. I mean, they've said his age is as young as 12, and maybe even worse. That's what needs to happen. We need to uncover the crimes that happened there.
Crazy. I know we talked about this in the past, but like the pictures of all the people he has pictures with in his house, like the Pope and all those other people. Then you see Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, who was in the CIA, all the pictures that he has, all the royal family, all the presidents, like crazy, maybe the rabbit hole that they don't want it to get into, but it might eventually have to get into there.
Yeah, I think the reason we don't know about it is there's so many powerful people at risk that they're flexing their power. But tough. If we're part of this, we need to know about it, and you need to pay the punishment.
And it is interesting that they kind of wanted it to go away, but it's weird by saying you want it to go away. I remember Trump had said, "Oh, it means something." That kind of made everybody focus more in on it. So I don't know if that was like reverse psychology or what was going on, but now it feels like it's more people talking about it than ever.
Trump campaigned on, we're going to release this list. Pam Bondi said it after she became AG, and then one day they decided it wasn't a thing anymore. I don't know what happened there, but love to know that too. But that's BS.
Yep.
Some of the most conservative people out there who are Trump supporters and thoroughly MAGA say the same thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene at the top of that list, Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson. Now, the Epstein thing's real. We need to know more about it. The public needs to know more about it, and justice needs to be done for these women, period. There's no way around that.
Now, switching gears here, I want to talk about your longtime close personal friend. A little nod there to Mean Gene Okerlund, but we're talking about Thomas Massie. What is he talking about here? Wants to repeal of the Gun-Free School Zone Act. So what does that mean, and why would you want to repeal that? And is it because maybe the school zones were like not defensible, or like explain that to me?
George H.W. Bush, when he was president, signed this Gun-Free School Zone Act, which means wherever, depending on where you live or what the rules are, I don't know. Schools are gun-free zones. I'm not talking about students. I'm talking about security, police, whatever.
Right,
I guess
police,
the cops go there with guns. I don't know, but school shooters specifically. Even this last tragedy we saw with the Annunciation School in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Catholic school in which 2 children died, others were shot and wounded. The shooter, who was a trans person, specifically said they were looking for a gun-free zone. This school was somewhere he or she, depending how you look at that, attended, and he or she's mother worked at. So this person was intimately familiar. Shot through the stained glass, like didn't even go in, just shot through and killed these kids and hurt people. But specifically was happy it was a gun-free zone because nobody was going to shoot back. And you can maximize the carnage. Thomas Massie wants to get rid of that stupid law, so they're not gun-free zones anymore. If somebody's looking for somewhere that's definitely going to be gun-free zone, it's going to be a lot harder because they don't know if somebody's got a gun there. But if it's guaranteed, yeah, that's probably where they want to open fire if they're evil and demonic and want to kill a bunch of people. So, and that's what happened in Minneapolis, unfortunately.
So schools are technically in the gun-free school zone. They're kind of defenseless, and there are targets because the cop security, they don't have anything to kind of defense against somebody with the gun then.
Correct. And there are so many instances in public places of some crazy bad person wanting to kill people with a gun and a good guy with a gun stopping it, but you don't hear about it because the people in charge don't want to float that narrative. There's a Waffle House where I used to live in Charleston, South Carolina. I like to sit in diners and coffee shops and write my columns. Like that's just something I like to do. That Waffle House was one of my spots. I was in DC at the time, but it was a regular spot. I knew the waitresses. A guy comes in with a gun, sticks it up, and another guy with a gun took care of business. And the police thanked him for it. The Waffle House employees and customers thanked him for it. And somebody could have got killed besides him. He got killed. I'm talking about the perpetrator. That was a story in South Carolina for a second. That wasn't a national headline like these other tragedies are, but it happens more frequently than people realize. The more guns in the hands of law-abiding people, the better. Gun-free zones are an awful idea. I agree with Thomas Massie. We should repeal that.
Do you think that shooter, do you think there's anything deeper than that? Because, my God, you can go down some rabbit holes with people talking about why they did it, MK Ultra, all that other stuff. You hearing like crazy stuff. Like, do you buy into any of that? Is there something more with the trans community? What do you kind of make of that whole thing?
I think anything's possible. Let me say, I have 2 answers to what you just said. So I have friends who are trans, people I know who have had more than one conversation about music and just stuff that has nothing to do with our gender identity or anything, just people I know. I'm not scared of them. Do I have opinions about transgender ideology? I certainly do, and I think a lot of it's destructive. But these friends of mine, I think there's something going on with them, and I think it's real, and I respect that. They can do what they want. These are adults. I'm not talking about kids. That's a whole different thing. I'm not worried about them shooting me or shooting kids or anything like that. I'm just not. Anything can happen. You could go do that, but I'm not worried about you doing that. I don't like right now that a lot of people on the right, where I dwell and work, are like, oh, see, it's trans people. They're all a threat to our kids and go shoot up schools. I don't like that. It's the same as when a right-winger shot up the Holocaust Museum a couple years ago in D.C. The left immediately was like, oh, how these right-wingers are. This is Tucker Carlson's fault. that this dude did this. When a Bernie Sanders supporter shot at a Republicans practicing baseball in Alexandria, Virginia for their congressional game that they do, my former boss, Rand Paul, was shot at, had to hide behind a tree. It is not then logical to say all Bernie Sanders supporters are going to go try to shoot Republicans or shoot people in public. I hate that. And because trans is so confusing and so controversial and so much in the news, I see a lot of conservatives saying, oh, yeah, these people are so messed up in the head, that's what they're going to do. That's not true. I know trans people, and I might even disagree about where they're at, but I respect them as people enough to do what they do, right? So there's that. As far as mental instability and all that kind of stuff, MK Ultra, maybe. I come from it from a sort of G.K. Chesterton religious angle. And what I mean by that is G.K. Chesterton said, when people stop believing in God, they don't believe in nothing. They believe in anything. And so this last shooter, the trans person who shot up the Catholic school in Minneapolis, had on her whatever gun stock things making fun of the Eucharist, something about 6 million more Jews need to die. Like, it was a smorgasbord of crazy.
Yeah.
But definitely making fun of Catholics, making fun of Jews. And also saying, I went down this trans route, I'm confused. I think with the pride stuff and all that, and I'm somebody who, if you had to pick between, gay people getting beat up at Stonewall in the 60s or pride flags everywhere from corporations, I would pick the pride flags everywhere. I think it's overblown. It's an overcorrection. But part of that is when your identity is not, I'm a Christian or I'm an American or I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan. It's I'm trans and I'm LGBT. That's never going to satisfy you. That is what you are attracted to or whatever, but that's not everything. So if somebody tries to make that everything, I think, yeah, that can mess with your head a little bit. I'm not saying, and once again, that means you're going to shoot people, but right. It's something. And that goes the same with somebody who's that deeply enmeshed in left-wing politics or right-wing politics or anything else. I think there's a natural thing in all human beings to look for that answer, for that truth. I have my opinions about what that is, but for people who can't get to whatever religion they find or act like an actual religion, it becomes something else and can lead them in bad directions. So I believe both those things.
Netanyahu, well said, by the way, but Netanyahu, very interesting quote here. If you don't support me, you're not MAGA. Is he right or wrong? Or where is he coming from? What does that mean?
So let's look at the people historically. I'm going to do this in recent years. Supported Benjamin Netanyahu, his Likud party, and his government in Israel, who supported them without question. That would be Lindsey Graham, George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney, most Democrats. Is that MAGA?
No.
Not the MAGA. I know MAGA is Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's my old boss, Rand Paul. It's Thomas Massie. It's Tucker Carlson. It's Steve Bannon. And the names I just mentioned, that second group, don't always agree with Donald Trump to the degree that he gets away from MAGA. MAGA's not Trump. MAGA was established by Trump, and then we're just taking him to task like, hey, I thought you were MAGA. Why are you breaking ranks here? Benjamin Netanyahu, just letting him commit what I would call a genocide in Gaza, and I'm not the first person to say that. Many do. Oh, yeah, you could do that. Here's some more money, Benjamin. Oh, that's MAGA. No, he's just covering his ass. That's the kind of thing John Bolton would say. John Bolton once said at a national conservatism conference that America first meant the U.S. military must be the first in Afghanistan, the first in Iraq. I'm like, good try, John Bolton, but nobody believes that.
Yeah. So Netanyahu might be a little off on that one.
Yeah, totally off. He's covering his ass. Look, yes. His biggest political ally right now is Donald Trump in the United States. He is not popular in his country. If you go to Israel, there is a major debate on this, and a lot of people don't know what their country's military is doing in Gaza. And there's a debate. You can read the Jerusalem Post. You can read their newspapers, and they talk about it all the time. It's only in the United States where AIPAC and these other groups try to put up these barriers where you're not supposed to tell the truth. But Israel, he's very unpopular. The best friend he has politically right now is the money we keep giving him to do evil things.
Who do you think is more unpopular / popular, Netanyahu in Israel or Newsom in California?
I would say probably Netanyahu. Newsom's he's not killing anybody like in the way that Netanyahu's government is.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, maybe some COVID decisions or something. He killed some, I don't know, but like not, oh, let's starve these people to death. Here's some food, bang, for getting food. Like that's a whole different level. So Newsom's not doing that. So yeah.
All right, let's talk. I mean, we're talking a lot of politics right now, but I want to change gears, talk wrestling. Here's a great quote. We were talking about last week. We were talking about the Tony Khan quote about how he basically said, "I know more about wrestling than Ted Turner." Eric Bischoff had a quote here about Tony Khan. He said, "Dixie Carter is a better booker than Tony Khan." So let's throw a curveball here. Let's throw it out at you. Is Eric Bischoff right that Dixie Carter is a better booker than Tony Khan? And do you agree with the statement? Is this is crazy, or you agree?
Well, let's break that down a little bit. And tell me if you disagree, and maybe you know more about this subject than I do. But Dixie Carter, when I was watching TNA, her philosophy was kind of like Bischoff's at one time. Let's bring in Hogan and the big names that wrestling fans have known for years. When they were thinking about hiring Paul Heyman at one point, I don't know where Dixie Carter fits in the timeline. His whole thing was, no, I don't want the legends front center. I want young guys. That's what we need to do with the company. And in retrospect, that's probably what they should have done. Dixie Carter's booking was not that. So Tony Khan has Moxley, had Jericho in AEW, but he mixed it up with brand new people that wrestling fans might not have heard of, and obviously Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and sort of fresh faces on the America major wrestling scene. Now we have Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland, who was in WWE but is doing so much more now. Is the better booking to have some legends and some new fresh faces, or just to have a bunch of old guys that have always been there? Because the latter seems more like how Dixie was booking, and that's how Bischoff booked, but the NWO was successful and so on. But I think going with the younger guys and freshening it up is probably a better idea. Somebody who's never booked a wrestling company, but that's my fans' perspective.
So do you agree with Bischoff? Is Dixie Carter a better booker than Tony
No,
Khan?
I don't. I'm hesitant to say that because I've never booked and Bischoff has. Like I respect his credibility there. I don't like to be, even when I'm judging like a wrestling match, the moves, like I've never done any of that stuff. I can't do any of that stuff. So I keep that in mind. Same with booking, which is what we're talking about.
I just thought that was kind of like a funny statement, because not that she's technically booking, she's signing the guys and stuff. Tony literally is doing that, but also booking the show, like physically booking. I feel like, I don't know, maybe trying to take a little slight at Tony there.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, when Dixie was there and doing what she was doing, Jeff Jarrett was still doing some of the booking, right? And I trust his decisions. They're all not going to be right, but I just think that's a wrong way of looking at that. I think Eric Bischoff, who I like and admire and listen to his podcast and dig him, like his tension with Tony Khan is not something I really enjoy. Yes, Mr. Bischoff, there is another major American wrestling company besides WCW who's being successful despite WWE being on top, and that's okay. Thank God there is.
Right. Yeah, thank God. Yeah, because if you look WWF or WB, they were bad for like 20 years, or kind of just coasting. You know what I mean? Oh, we'll have a good Mania, we'll have a good SummerSlam, everything else sucked, like kind of thing. Like they were just coasting. AEW comes around, they really amped it up. And notice their business went through the roof after AEW because they really ramped up. The Bloodline storyline was killing it. Roman, Cody. I mean, it was just, they needed like a kick in the ass kind of thing.
Tony Khan saved wrestling in our era. What I mean by that is it wasn't going to go away, but WWE got so stale. And, I love these greatest moment specials in A&E because I go back and there was like some cool stuff in 2006 and 2012. A lot of it centered around John Cena because he's just so talented and entertaining. But you had those moments. But in general, Monday Night Raw I was going to watch. SmackDown I was going to watch because I've been a fan all these years. It's my favorite thing in the world. But I would always go into it like, are they going to give me anything tonight?
Right, exactly.
That's how I felt about it every time. It doesn't feel like that now with WWE or AEW, but as thanks to AEW existing and doing something different early on and being better than WWE and forcing WWE, obviously Vince not being there, Triple H being in charge is another factor, but so is AEW. It's a big deal. I'm so glad as a fan. I think I told you I was at the first Dynamite in DC. And when Tony Schiavone was up on the platform stage talking, I got teared up a little bit because I'm like, that's the guy I grew up with on Saturday night. Yes, and now he's this other big company, and there he is. That's the guy that was mixing it up with Flair and the Rock and Roll Express and all that. And look at this, and in my fandom at that point, I was like, I got Ring of Honor. That's cool. That's kind of where it was. It was AEW, and it's great.
Shivani is the man. Love Tony.
Absolutely. I love that he's still doing it and on top of his game after all these years and dyes his hair and looks younger than he actually is. I love all of it.
Hell yeah. Damn right. Let's stick on AEW. I'm going to go back to WWE. Let's stick on AEW. I don't know if you saw this. AEW All In is the first pay-per-view to be a part of HBO Max pay-per-view 9/20. Obviously, that'll be the day of the show there. All Out. I'm sorry, not All In. All Out. Sure. 3 p.m. start time. So not only did they move the start time because WrestlePalooza will be on later at 7 p.m., they changed it, and now it's $39.99 for pay-per-view for HBO Max subscribers. So you're getting basically a savings of $10 off per pay-per-view. First of all, do you like that? And did you kind of expect it, meaning that they're on Max, and of course they're going to get pay-per-view eventually?
We all expected them to be on Max. We expected a discount because Tony had said there might be, or there were some reports. I was hoping it would be like $25 of pay-per-view.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
So it's not much of a discount, but it's better than $50. I'm excited.
But I pay $10 a month for HBO Max as it is.
So right. So I guess that's the split. But I've been watching PLEs on Peacock for a couple of years now, and you just kind of get used to something like that. That's changing too. We can get to that later, maybe with ESPN. But I like that their AEW's home is HBO Max. I can watch all of their programming there now, including the PLEs. I'm just happy for them as a company. I mean, if you're competing against WWE and your platform is HBO Max, that's pretty strong, right? So All Out doing that. I like that they moved it to 3 p.m. If Tony's swallowing his pride a little bit and realizing that's the better business decision as far instead of going head to head with WWE, but I also don't think it's corporate BS when they say, hey, Forbidden Door aired stateside around that time and we did pretty damn well. Like that is true. That's not nothing. So that's going to be a hell of a day. I'm going to be in Charlotte watching Judas Priest, and I'm going to come back Sunday, and I got a lot of wrestling to watch the next day.
Here's the thing. AEW will probably go long, so it'll bite into WrestlePalooza and try to make people not go to WrestlePalooza. So there's some advantages. Obviously, you don't have to go head-to-head, and you don't have to compete like AJ Lee's going to return. The Usos are going to reform. Brock Lesnar's on the show. It might be a lot to kind of go head-to-head up against WWE's ramping it up, but again, because AEW has a show, that's kind of why AEW is ramping it up, and that's why WWE picked that date. So again, AEW is helping make WWE a better product for the fans. And 3 p.m. that's great for the fans because if you want to watch both, watch both.
Yeah, and you can watch them live for the most part. I like that AEW will bleed into the WWE show because they're probably in the main event on All Out. And whatever's happening first on WrestlePalooza is probably not going to be as good as what you're in the middle of watching on All Out. So that's tit for tat. That's competition. I like all of that. I'm a free market libertarian. Go at it, guys. Beat the hell out of each other because as a fan, I get better stuff. I'm not mad at any of it. I don't know what else to say. Like, I think it's great. I'm a AEW diehard, and I'm pro WWE, but I'm going to watch the AEW show first. They always deliver on their pay-per-views. They're always great. They're always monumental. They're always newsworthy. So I'm going to watch that and then see what WWE does afterwards. I think WWE's best counter punch was the return of AJ Lee. That's bigger than Brock Lesnar and John Cena, in my opinion, if you're trying to get the interest of AEW diehards.
Gotcha.
Punk was their guy. This is his wife. They remember it, wanting to see her for years. I think that's a brilliant counter move by WWE. I wonder if it would have even happened if not for the competition going on right now and her husband's history with AEW and, sticking up for her man. And, she's a great wrestler. We want to see that too, but just the politics of it all.
Very true. So WrestlePalooza obviously will be on 7 p.m. that night, which is 9/20, September 20th. ESPN DTC for all the WWE PLEs going forward, but ESPN versus HBO. I mean, like you kind of mentioned, it's like two powerhouses here. They both just sounds like they're in NBA, NHL, MLB, NFL. Like they're like all lumped together with these sports promotions. It's huge.
It institutionalizes wrestling even further as powerhouse entertainment, sports even. And I like that as a fan. when I was a kid and I would go see Jim Crockett NWA once a month at the St. Andrews High School, a couple miles away in the gym, in the paper the next day, they would have the results of who wrestled, the newspaper. And to me, it was in the sports section. Now, that's a little different what we're talking about, but I like the legitimization like they do in Japan. Like, this is a sport. This is a thing. Yes, we might know it's predetermined, but it's on ESPN. I like that a lot. And people said they want to have a sports like more feel. AEW early said we wanted to feel like Mid-South and Bill Watts and all that kind of stuff. I think that's cool as a fan.
So cool. And WWE right now, it's funny. I was talking to a buddy of mine. And he was like, "Oh, WWE's struggling right now," and I was like, just like taken aback. I'm like, WWE's struggling. They just went to Paris, 30,000 plus for a PLE, which to me, and obviously, don't take this wrong way if you're a WWE fan, but that's like a throwaway pay per view. You know what I mean? That's like an in your house, or that's like a secondary pay per view, and you're drawing 30,000 people in Paris. Raw drew over 23,000 people. So combined for just like a generic WWE, we're going to Paris show, two nights in a row, over 53,000 fans are in attendance. So I mean, I was like, WWE struggling. I was like, they're killing it. Like, they're maybe not as well as last year, the year before, maybe by a smidge, but they're killing it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're judging 1 year ago versus now, maybe, but like that year ago was kicking ass more than they ever have. Like, what are we talking about here? Both companies are doing well. The TV rights alone, if the metrics are money, which they have been for most promoters and performers in the history of wrestling, they're both kicking butt. WWE is getting bigger under TKO's banner. What they did with UFC, they're doing with WWE. It's become more international. It's become bigger in general. There are some fans that don't like that it's overly commercialized with all the ads in the ring, and I don't mind that at all. That's what I want. That's what boxing is. Yeah. You got ads everywhere. You got ads on people, boxers' butt, everything. Bring it on. Make money. Make it that. That means our eyeballs are on it and people want to watch it. So the more the better.
And here's the thing. WWE Clash in Paris, the big PLE, biggest gate in history of Paris, biggest gate ever in history of that huge arena, which is just gigantic. Taylor Swift was there and they beat her gate. So it just goes to show you, like, okay, they're not struggling at all. I mean, they're kicking ass. It just shows you how much money those fans are willing to spend on WWE tickets too.
Exactly. And part of why it's the biggest gate is how much they charge for tickets now, which is 100%. A lot. Yep. I've seen people on social media, some guy somewhere, I don't remember, it was stateside or in Europe, but he's like, it's sad that WWE's 5 minutes away from me tonight, but it's cost prohibitive was the phrase he used.
I could see that.
He wasn't going. SmackDown was in Savannah a couple months ago, and my girlfriend and I, if we could have got the $100 tickets in the kind of area we like to sit, we would have went. But we're not paying $250 a piece for those tickets. It's just not worth it. I'm not going to drive 90 minutes and pay that. If AEW's there and I can get those $100 tickets, I'll do that. And they're still reasonably priced. So there's that competition again. I want to see how far WWE can go because they are selling out with these ticket prices, and God bless them. Charge triple that and see if you can do it. Take all that money, but I think there's a limit on that.
That's the only thing to me, and I know it sucks for some fans, but for a lot of fans, it's totally fine. If you look at it, okay, tickets are too expensive. Well, they're selling out everywhere, so I guess they're not too expensive. Like to a certain big group of people, like Paris, for instance. Like, okay, it's $100+ a ticket, whatever it is, American money, maybe $200 a ticket. Well, 30,000 tickets sold, so I guess that wasn't enough for 30,000 people. So you got to keep churning it out. You can't go, oh well, let's cut it back. Well, no, everybody paid that. You got to keep going. It's all about the money.
You'd be stupid to cut it back if they're willing to pay it.
Yeah,
I think Nick Khan said somewhere that the WWE market was seriously undervalued at the time he said that, when tickets were what they used to be. And he's a smart business guy. Looks like he's correct so far. And
if you're breaking gate records, why would you lower it so you don't break the record? Like cut off your nose to spite your face type of stuff. Like it,
if Tony Khan started selling tickets for half of what he's doing it now, even though he's doing all right, Dixie Carter would be the better booker.
Oh, yeah. True.
That would be the point.
Think about it, too, right? I'm going to a collision at ECW, and I'm going to the show. It's 916 tickets available. Every show they've had easily sold out because, obviously, just around 1,000 people. I mean, nothing crazy. But the arena obviously is smaller. ECW used to literally sardine people in where they were literally like squeezing next to each other. You know what I mean? Like AEW, you can tell that it's a little bit more spacious. They're trying to make it a little bit more comfortable for people there. It's selling out, but the ticket prices were very, very reasonable. I was like, damn, I was like, not bad at all. And then of course, when I went to SummerSlam with my son, I was like, these ticket prices are insane.
Yeah.
Thank God I got a little bit of a bonus from work. So thank God I was able to do that and be able to go and take my son to SummerSlam. So it's also true. AEW is obviously a better, bargain for a fan like me that might not have the most amount of money in the world.
It's more accessible. I'm going to NXT house show here in Charleston Saturday night. I think
nice.
the tickets are like $60, which is totally reasonable. That's a smaller show. It's an intimate thing. NXT's only ran here one time. I think Matt Riddle was on the card in NXT. So however many years ago that was. But yeah, that's the only part of WWE that's really affordable to go see live right now.
Yeah. Yep. It's crazy too, because my son loves Madison Square Garden. I mean, I think everybody does, you know what I mean? But those tickets, I mean, they charge whatever the hell they want to charge. It always usually sells out or does really well. So it's an expensive venture, the WWE, but people are buying the tickets. People are buying the merch. The merch stands are nuts. So, I mean, why not, take the money?
I wonder if there's some wrestling fan parents out there with little kids who also you're like, why? We know you like John Cena, but you really should check out this Hangman Page guy. He's a pretty cool guy. Like, just to save money so they can buy tickets.
Hey. Yeah. That's like indie shows back in the day, and I'm sure you experienced too in like the 90s. They had Doink, quote unquote Doink.
Oh yeah,
like, hey, let's go see Doink. He was in the WWF, and it's not Doink. I mean, you could tell it. like, oh man, like Big Slam Vader. Let's go see Vader. Yeah, that's not Big Van Vader. It's Big Slam Vader. You know what I mean? It's like they definitely try to trick you back in the day.
My favorite version of what you're talking about, this is a little different. I think this was on Chris Jericho's podcast years ago. It was some of the British wrestlers talking about how crappy the indie scene in the UK was in like the aughts. And they had that guy, the UK Undertaker.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yes. It's a guy who just dresses up like he got his picture with the Undertaker, Mark Calloway, eventually. But my favorite one was the Dudley Boy. Did you know about him?
No, I don't even remember that. No,
it was just some indie wrestler that dressed like Bubba or Devon and ran around and called himself the Dudley Boy. But they were talking about how goofy it was. Like they would just rip off WWE popular. I'd laugh for a week about that. I thought that was the funniest thing. But that was their entertainment. Like WWE.
Yeah.
So they went to see UK Undertaker and the Dudley Boy.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. I love how they get creative.
What's that?
I love how they get creative, like the guys themselves. Like, hey, I'm just going to be a fake Undertaker.
Right,
I'll be a Dudley Boy.
An independent wrestler in England, like that's your gimmick. That's what you decided. I'm the UK Undertaker.
So bad. Oh my God. Yeah. I wanted to mention this about AEW, about the pay-per-view on Max, and I have to look at like the deal again in the contract, but I'm almost 100% positive here. I'm almost sure that they're getting 185 million a year from Warner Brothers Discovery. I'm pretty sure there was a clause in there that if they add the pay-per-view element, that the deal jumps up to 199 or 200 million a year to have the pay-per-view element, and then Max gets a piece of the big chunk, the big piece of the pay-per-view dollars, and that AEW, I guess, would get a portion, but technically they're getting almost 15 million a year. So I have to look at that. I'm not sure, but I don't know if you saw that or read that anywhere, but I saw that. I was like, wow, that's impressive.
I did. And I mean, gross wise, if you're getting 110,000 buys, and that would be on the low end at $40 a pop, that's like north of $4 million, right? Whatever Max gets and AEW gets and whoever else is involved. But yeah, that's pretty significant. And they're doing once a month basically now. AEW's on a pay-per-view schedule like WWE is, and wasn't in the beginning. They just had like 4, and now it's all the time. So yeah.
So that's obviously works out good for Max, as long as they keep on drawing at least 110, 125, then you're definitely making money. But you want to look at maybe 175, 200, then you're really making a good chunk of change, good chunk of money.
For sure. And, even a company like TNA, I found myself ordering the $40 TNA pay-per-views more in the last year than I had in recent time because of just cool things they're doing with their product. But also they have those shows that if you just have TNA Plus, it's $10 you can watch that aren't $40. And then like 4 times a year, here's $40. That's doable for me. And I think probably a lot of other people. if they charge $40 for every show as TNA, that would be a problem. Is kind of what I'm getting at. Their business model.
Yes. Yep. I got you. It's just interesting that like the little things here and there that they're doing to hopefully eventually make themselves profitable. But I think it's really, again, my buddy was saying, AEW is falling off and falling in the wrong direction. That's another positive. 185 million a year goes to 200 million a year. Now they're on HBO Max pay-per-view. It just seems like, I don't know, maybe gloom and doom isn't necessarily true at all. I mean, it seems like they're kind of on a roll.
And people sometimes say that who aren't really paying attention. Like I have a close friend, and if he ever watches this, he'll know who he is, that used to watch wrestling. But some of the people now, but to the degree he knows about it is probably from Jim Cornette's podcast, which is probably not the best way to learn. Well, he and I were talking about Will Ospreay a couple months ago, and he's like, yeah, he just does all that flipping stuff. I'm like, dude, you haven't watched Will Ospreay in a couple years. Like that dude can do anything, but he's a submission wrestler. He's a great promo. It's not what him and Ricochet were doing 10 years ago or whatever that was. That's not he is a top flight star, like a Cody Rhodes or Hulk Hogan and another. He's in that category. But this person didn't know that. They knew that Jim Cornette a couple years ago talked about flipping dude, and then they based their concept of where the business is now and what AEW is upset on something that's really dated. I run into that more than once. So you kind of have to keep that in mind depending on who you're talking to.
Hey, just throwing this out there, Kenny Omega doing an injury angle with him. They're doing an injury angle with Roman Reigns on the other show. So they're kind of doing some dual stuff here. But I don't know if you noticed this about Omega. Always was in great shape. Always easily, I'd say, God, maybe since 2008, 2009-ish is when he really kind of blossomed, became one of the best wrestlers. Mm-hmm. But God, at least for the last 10 years, he's been one of the best wrestlers in the world. Easily. Top 10, top 5, whatever you want to say. He looked huge. Maybe it was what he was dressed up. He looked huge the last few times. Right? Like, is he bulking up or what? Is he getting bigger? Or he looked, he looked big.
He looked huge. He looked great. He said openly that he's always working in pain. Like that's been just the reality for him for years. I do wonder, wrestling styles do differ over different eras. I think we joked on here about Luthez complaining about, what was it, Wahoo McDaniel? Oh, he's complaining about Terry Funk. Harley Race, that's who was doing the flying headbutt. But like Luthez saying, oh, look at this kid doing this flying headbutt. Like, that's the thing. Kenny Omega is a different wrestler than what I saw with Flair Steamboat, who were awesome. I do wonder that breakneck style that he and Ospreay and now Kyle Fletcher and Swerve specialize in, is Kenny going to be 48 and still doing this? Or has he got another 2 or 3 years? He's already talking about being in pain, and that's got to be due in part to the style of wrestling that he's popularized and done so well. Do you agree with that, or I don't know?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. He's definitely one of the best. He definitely has an awesome style. But again, another one of those guys where I feel like maybe people get the wrong idea about how he works and what kind of wrestler he is. Very much of a more of a Japan strong style stiff guy than a flippity floppity. Does stuff with no psychology guy that you see elsewhere. I don't think Omega is that at all. No,
he tells a story. People would say, "Oh, AEW doesn't tell stories." Do they do too many multi-man matches? I think they do. There's things I hate. Standing around outside the ring waiting 10 seconds for somebody to jump on you. I hate that. It's too much of that. Jim Ross has even said that. But they do tell stories. They've had some great stories, and Kenny Omega is definitely part of that. It's not just, here's two guys, there's no story, look how many moves they can do. It's never that. Not with him, anyway.
Tony, big fan of Mexican wrestling, big fan of Japanese wrestling. Mm-hmm. What do they do a lot? Multi-man matches. I mean, it's just kind of what you do. And if you do too many singles matches, and this is me as a fan just saying that, but if you do too many singles matches, you kind of ruin the pay-per-view where you could have the single match to have the bigger match to blow up. If you do the multi-man matches on TV, you give yourself more storytelling devices to lead up to the one-on-one match. That's just me. I think so.
True, and you're protecting some of your top stars who don't have to do as much in a multi-man match. Yeah. Like those blood and guts war games type matches in AEW, and you see like 5 of the top stars, any of who could be world champion. Maybe somebody in that group's hurt and they need them for the next pay-per-view, but they can do that match, be on the card, but a lot less risk. So it's just, and it's a great spectacle for the fans. Like everybody wins.
Yes. And let's say you want to make a wrestling every week or whatever. Would you really want him wrestling one-on-one matches every week where he might get hurt and you
No.
want to keep your $2 million investment, in great shape? No, you want him to do multi-man matches and keep him fresh, keep him safe, but also get him on TV so people see him wrestling. So less is more.
Yeah, no, I agree. I understand that part of it. I just, especially with the mid card and stuff, sometimes I want to see some mid card guy versus another mid card guy one-on-one and make something of that, of where they're at on the card. I don't know.
It depends on the guy, right? I mean, like maybe save Omega. That was fine. He was in the 8-man. Like, that's fine. Like, kind of save him and kind of build up to whatever they're building up to next. Maybe Omega Fletcher.
Yeah, and I don't even mind the WWE formula where there's like two faces are in the ring who might have some kind of beef, and then the two heels come out, and then Adam Pearce or Nick Aldis are like, y'all gonna have a tag team match tonight.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. That's fine. That's totally fine. That's something to do until they get to the big show where it's going to be one-on-one with somebody.
I like David Beaton right now a lot, but a lot of it like rinse and repeat. Like, paint by numbers. Exactly what you said. It's like, oh, now it's LA Knight and Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker. Right. Like a lot of rinse and repeat, which is fine. The crowd's into it and stuff, but sometimes you got to shake it up a little.
Yeah. What was the thing with Teddy Long for years? This is going to be a tag team.
Yes. Yes. It's so funny. Yeah. I just one of those things where I guess maybe you almost like fall into the lull. We're like, yeah, well, let's get that tag team match pop, and then like let's do it every week. It's like, come on, like really?
Yeah. You think this might be steering off a different direction? Adam Pearce can still go in the ring, right? Am I wrong to think that?
Yeah, he can still wrestle.
I think Nick Aldis can. Why hasn't that happened yet? We had so many years of stupid Survivor Series Raw versus SmackDown where you didn't care. I want to see Nick Aldis fight Adam Pearce and have some kind of a beef. Like, what? I don't know. Seems like something's right there that nobody's getting any younger, so why not? I don't know.
I know this might be a little into the weeds for some of the fans, but I wanted Nick Aldis to like turn on Cody and fight Cody and finish off their trilogy there. You know what I mean? Get that trilogy match in.
I'm a huge Nick Aldis fan. I watched NWA, Billy Corgan's NWA, religiously when he was at the top of that. I don't know what happened with those guys. I was kind of heartbroken when it happened because he was the biggest part of why I watched it. I also like seeing a younger Ricky Starks, Eddie Kingston, all the Camille, the people that went through there. But Nick Aldis was always at the center of it. I like him. What he's doing in WWE, I'm glad he's on such a big platform now. Like, he deserves it. He's that talented. But I want to see him get in the ring again. Him and Cody at the NWA show where Aldis won back the title, and Aldis and Cody at the original All In and all that. Like, that's him in the ring is great. And, he just doesn't get to do that right now.
And if you look at it, like, I know he's wearing a suit. You could tell he's jacked. You know what I mean? Like, this guy's working out in the gym. He's a big dude.
He takes pride in that. He's not black and not be in shape,
I don't know. I want to see it. I love Scrap Daddy Adam Pearce, but I want to see Aldis. Even if Aldis would like turn on Randy Orton or something, like, because he keeps RKOing him, you know what I mean? Like, I'm for that, but just put him in there against a big opponent. And I mean, he's huge, like 6'5", so him and Orton would be eye to eye. I think it would be good.
Or even something where like a heel champion, whether it's Seth Rollins or Gunther or somebody down the line, is just trying to muscle around the guy in charge. And he's like, oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to fight you. And Aldis would lose, of course, because the champ, but that would be something to watch.
Yes. Yep. Definitely. So let's wrap this bad boy up for today. Let's head towards the plugs. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. How about you, Jack?
You can find me on X, formerly Twitter, at JackHunter74. Everything I do, political and wrestling, you can find it there.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. We'll see you right back here next time for the Capital A